So this is your fourth film with director Joseph Kosinski, who's having a pretty good month and a half. But
Yeah, I've done nothing since 2017, and then two movies coming out in a month. Hollywood's like that.
yeah. But you two obviously must like working together. So what keeps you coming back for projects together?
I think that's a really deep question for me because I think there's look, I take a lot of pride in being like a working film composer, that I take a lot of pride in my skill set of like being able to make music for anything you put in front of me. Like that has always been my goal, tell story through music. But there's something in the way Joe Kosinski tells his stories, his visuals, that really elicits something really special from me. And it's hard for me to even put that into words because the closest I've been able to put it into words, is this old Wagnerian term, which is like total art music, where like everything that you're seeing, it's like a sum of all of its parts. It's the visuals, it's the music, it's the sound, it's the performance, it's the, there's so many things that make a Joe Kosinski movie. And I think it's just so cool that I've been involved in most of them and able to, I don't know, I feel like, obviously not just due to me, also due to the collaborators in the first two films I did with Joe, obviously, but we've been able to really like hold our own against his incredible vision, that he delivers on screen. So I think I count myself so lucky to be associated with his work because he really knows what sound and music can do for him. And he's very confident in that. So he's able to let a picture sit. First of all, because the pictures are so beautiful, but then he doesn't need to hurry to make a cut or something because he's going to let us do something really beautiful. And so I think this is continuing that effort to really continue that total art music, where it is a sum of everything, gives the audience a real journey. And so, yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool to be back.
Sure. And when you start working on a film with Joe or with someone else, how much do you and the director usually talk about the theme and the character before you even sit down to watch it?
I try to have as much conversation with the filmmaker as possible. And in fact, for Spiderhead, I started working before a frame of picture was shot. I called Joe. I said, "Hey, what's going on with this movie I just heard about? I'd love to do it." And he said, "Go read the short story." And I did. And it was awesome. I said, "The short story is really great." And I immediately started having these ideas of sounds I wanted to hear. I think I wrote one of the first pieces almost right away. And then he sent over the script, which is awesome and expands on the ideas of the short story and creates this really compelling, as you know, this really compelling drama. And then I just kept writing. I mean, just about all the musical material that's in the film was created based on the script, based on those conversations, because the goal for me, and I think the goal for any film composer, right, or any artist, is to create something original that stands and supports the film and does something really great. And my cheat code of doing that is trying to do it so early that there's never a discussion of like temp music or, something that gets in the way of like, we have to reference all this other stuff. And of course you wind up referencing things and pointing at things, but you start with original ideas rather than the opposite, where you come in and there's already music in the film, or there's already, and I work like that too. There's nothing wrong with that. Temp music is like a nature of the business, and you have to be really good at working with it. That's one of the skills you need. But how awesome is it to approach it from more of a pure standpoint of just making music based on a story? So I think that's why I'm so proud of this score, is because like it feels like this film in a way that if it was temped with something else, it just wouldn't have felt like that.
Yeah, the score feels so unique. It's I love that you go between these really natural, lush vocal and string pieces, and then these really kind of sinister, like almost at times like sound design, synthy kind of cues. Was that a decision that you came up with while talking to Joe, or was that like, how did you get there?
It was a natural evolution of the idea of control and chaos. The idea that there are these experiments going on with human emotion. I think one of the most fun things to do was record the choir, because we had not only, like you said, the lush and organic and beautiful quality of the human voice, and had these, I wrote these purposely like simple, beautiful chords for like when we're talking about Jeff's emotions and his memories. But then you also have these really super precise, dialed in, kind of almost robotic sounding voices, which to me is like a great metaphor for the puppetry that Amnesty's working on, these on our subjects. That he is like controlling their emotions in a very precise way. And so I think we had an opportunity, and that's what was really fun. We had this opportunity where we have this spectrum from like total control and precision, all the way to like wild human emotion, and then we can dial that scale depending on where we are in the film. So if we're with Jeff and he's reminiscing about a memory, we could go all the way into this raw human emotion and be really pure and direct, versus like when we're talking about one of the drugs like Darken Flocks or something like that, where the subject is under like total control by Amnesty, that we're going like the complete opposite direction, like fully synthesized slash manipulated electronically. A lot of those sounds are like weird guitar strumming that I was doing. Like it's just it's really fun to be able to connect musical concepts to dramatic concepts. I think that's one of the core tenets of being a film composer, that you are trying to express the core themes of the film through a score. And this happens to be one where that very direct analogy of control versus chaos really makes its way into the score.
Yeah. And kind of rolling with that, I'm really curious how much of this score was thought out and orchestrated versus how much maybe was come up with in the room, especially when you're working with the vocal ensemble tonality. Like when you're exploring all their different textures and stuff, how much are you giving them sheet music and how much are you like working through stuff with them?
For this score, because of the precision involved, just about everything was written out. But there's a big but here, is that, for a lot of these human elements, it's so fragile and delicate, because it was not only tonality, we had a children's choir as well. And so you're finding the challenge is to like have people sing really quietly or have people sing really loud. You're finding the extremes of the human voice and challenging people. So we wound up like doing a lot of takes of just music that is very simple. Like it was all notated very simply, but it is really difficult because I'm asking the singers to sing high and super quiet, or I'm asking them to sing low and super controlled. So like the creation in the room is less about the actual notes on the page and more about the expression of the emotion and like the control of their voice, and like rehearsing things to the point where the singers have like that complete control over something so they can sing it super quietly. And I think that's what makes, I get asked a lot as a composer, since I do a lot of work with computers and electronic music, like, oh, when are, we all going to be replaced? When is the orchestra going to be replaced? Or, maybe in 100 years or 1,000 years. But, for right now, there's so much humanity and emotion in every millisecond when we are recording those ensembles, and the experience of that choir and the experience of each individual singer added up to the way the air is vibrating in the room. That's impossible to replicate right now. So, and that's the magic. So I think, and that's the like the made up in the room is like all that in between the notes,
Yeah,
even though like everything was really precisely written out.
sure. Uh, and you have this beautiful cue called Free Fridays, uh, that I think like this. It's basically just a C major scale, which for anyone that's had a 30-minute music lesson, like it's the first thing you learn. It's like the easiest thing. So, but it's beautiful when you incorporate it in the score. Is it ever a battle for you when you're composing to just like embrace that kind of simplicity?
I think that is the battle. I mean, that for me in particular, that's something I'm always trying to to achieve is like this ultimate simplicity, right? I think it was Hemingway that said, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And I think, it's a combination of being unafraid and being confident, that I'm unafraid, that I don't need to prove how brilliant I am by writing the most complicated piece of music. In fact, one could say, and this is not what I'm saying, but one could say, I'm going to show how brilliant I am by just, all I have is a C major scale, and that's the music I'm going to write. And I think that was really kind of the real challenge for this film, was really just being unafraid to delve right into these powerful emotions, even the most simple emotions, which is like I getting out of the Spiderhead for my free Friday. That was the whole concept, is like this is this kind of free element. But the interesting thing, right, about this film is that, are we truly free is the question. How free are these subjects? And so even though you're free, you're still like locked into this C major scale. So I think there's a lot of ways to read into how Joe and I interpreted the script through music, and that's what makes my job so much fun. Is just is all those little things that I get to do that they don't teach you in music school. Arranging, orchestrating, theory. I love all that stuff. I'm a total dork, but applying that to storytelling, applying it here, that's the true art that I feel like I'm just always in pursuit of every minute of the day.
I love how deliberate all of these choices were from you. I'm curious. Spearhead uses or Spiderhead. It uses so many licensed songs to like such good effect, and they're all this kind of like yacht rocky, genre. Were you involved in the conversations to pick those songs, and then once those songs are in there, are you composing differently when your cue is going to end and then like Hall & Oates is going to start up?
I was really fortunately, I was aware of the songs from the beginning, because a lot of them are in the script, and obviously they're not one-to-one. It's not like every song that was in the script made it into the film, but I'd say about half of them were what was written in the script, and the other half, and that's where I might have been involved in passing, like, oh, Joe, what do you think of this song? I was not really involved in any sort of important way in picking the songs. But that being said, since I knew that was a thing,
Mhm.
what was great about being aware of that is then I could make my score so different. Like the score is like cellos, bass, clarinets, felt piano, and choir, has nothing to do with like guitars and Fender Rhodes. There was a really early experiment I did where I took the instrumentation of yacht rock, like the Fender Rhodes and the bass and like the guitars, and I like wrote a cue of like of Nesty walking to the Spiderhead or something, and it just didn't really work because it was so close to the songs, and so what we had learned from that experiment is that the score is most successful when it is like, it's like a Venn diagram and there's basically no overlap. Scores here, the yacht rocks here, and they're expressing two completely different sides of the story, I think. And I think that's what's so effective about music in this film, is that not only does the score really accent the characters in a certain way, but the songs really like give you so much depth and understanding of where Nesty's coming from. I think it was really special to be a part of something like that. I think, yeah, it's very rare when we get early on an understanding of what the songs are going to be like. Usually it's such a last second thing or kind of battered around in post. I've been in films where I don't know what the final song is until I'm at the premiere, because like licensing is such a thing, you just
Yeah.
don't know. And so you do your best, and it's awesome when we do know and we could like get in the key and like transition. I definitely, in some instances would alter the key of my cues to like get into a song in a certain way. And there's actually an amazing scene. I have to give a shout out to Brian Lawson, our music editor. There's a couple scenes, flashbacks, where we are playing both song and score at the same time.
Yeah.
And he really worked hard to take the music that I had written. I'd already written all these ideas. he'd work really hard to take those ideas, put them in a certain key, and make it actually work with the song before then giving the cues back to me. And then I would like really do the final finessing. So it's a real team effort working on a film. Any film of Joe's, is such a team effort because of stuff like this. He's so demanding of making sure these elements, these crossovers, these little nuanced things are super perfect. So you and I, when we're in the audience, it's just this ride, and you're not really seeing the seams as much, that it's more of like just one total thing. So in those moments, you're not going, oh, there's a song, there's the score. You're just going, oh, this is this cool emotional moment. And I'm really proud of that. I think we did that in this one in a really cool way.
Yeah. And in checking out, some of your work, the range of what you've done is so great. I mean, Spiderhead itself has such a range within the music, and then you worked with Daft Punk. You've written Bard songs for The Witcher. Like, you're all over the place. When you were starting out, were you just soaking up every genre of music and studying everything, or do you feel like you take a gig and then you do a lot of learning on the job? Like, you say yes first, and then you're like, okay, I got to learn this.
The answer to both questions is yes. No, first of all, yeah, I'm just a very hungry, I'm a very hungry hippo. I just want to take in as much as I can, just in terms of like understanding and being musically present, because I look at my filmmakers, and even just if you look at the types of films that Joe is making versus the types of films that someone like, Brian Duffield is making, or Peter Tensio, some of these other filmmakers that I've worked with, Ben David Grabinski, Charlie Bean, like these are all filmmakers who themselves have had a wide variety of things they've written and directed. And so I view it as my job to be ready for anything, like I connect with these people as a friend and a colleague and a storyteller. And then everything else is secondary. It's like, oh, you need New Orleans jazz from the turn of the century. Great. Let's go record some amazing musicians in New Orleans. So I try to be ready for anything. At the same time, I think the through line I try to find is like, what is my take? Like, yes, it's New Orleans jazz, like Lady and the Tramp a couple of years ago, we did a lot of New Orleans jazz. So it's that, but what am I bringing to the table that makes it unique? That it's not another composer, that's not another New Orleans. Why did you hire Joe? Why didn't you hire someone else? I try to come to it with a viewpoint and a sensibility that delivers something profound for the filmmaker, that they see something in the score, or they hear something in the score, I should say, that really expresses the story at a visceral dramatic level. And it sounds kind of heady when I'm listening to myself say these silly things, but it really is true. I think that my job is filmmaker / storyteller first, and then I need to be ready to execute that in whatever musical style. And so I just got lucky, because when I was a kid, I loved listening to hip hop. I loved listening to symphonic music. I love listening to jazz. I was just like really hungry. I just wanted to listen to it all. And I tried to incorporate as much as I can into my training. And I certainly have my blind spots, but the great thing about what we do, it's so collaborative that if there's something I don't know, I have friends that I work with that I could call up, and we could make something together that'll work great. So yeah, I feel it's pretty charmed. It certainly is weird sometimes though, Owen, when like you're trying to get a gig or do a gig, like, why did we hire this guy? He just did Greatest Showman. Why is he doing this? And it's like, no, like maybe you're not aware of this other credit I have that shows I can do this, or like, why is this guy doing this movie? So it's hard. It gets hard, like pitching myself on things sometimes. Like, people see my output as so various. They're like, what box do we put this guy in? That's what Hollywood seems to be, right? We're all put in these boxes, like, oh, you're the action guy, or you're the musical theater guy, or you're the TV guy, or you're the whatever guy. And I'm just like, I'm whatever you need. Like for my filmmakers, like I'm trying to deliver something profound, so I make it my goal to learn always.
And I don't want to take up too much of your time, so
all good.
And then with this one, but what is there a particular moment that in Spiderhead that was maybe the most challenging, or something that you're just really excited for people to see and hope that they the score comes through the most, or something that you're just excited for people to experience?
Yeah, it was really hard finding the right tone for any of the scenes in the lab. Because um the the each lab scene has its own tone and shape to it. And so for some of them, we just spent weeks like honing in the shape. And writing music early is great, but this is where it gets hard, because like what Brian, my music editor I mentioned, and Stephen Marioni, the picture editor, who also just works so hard with our existing tracks, they would start sometimes mashing up different ideas I had together. And so then I'd get a copy of the picture and be like, oh, how do I make these three ideas I had like work and transition? And so I'd like record new ideas. I'd like take my guitar and like try to play something backwards and like loop something to like connect the two things. And it became a real challenge, because I think reflecting on it, like every piece of music I wrote early on was focused on like an idea, an emotion. And in the lab, because of the types of experiments that Amnesty is doing, it purposely is cycling through like so many different layers of emotion. And like some of them are real, some of them are not real. So how do you create a journey through these different emotions? And it gets really interesting towards the end of the movie, and I won't give anything away, where there's a lot crashing together. And I think that was really hard. Like when we get to a point where we're moving really fast through different ideas and different types of sensibilities and emotions, it got really hard musically to find the the through line and the trajectory, and just make something sensible that wasn't just a bunch of gibberish. so yeah, I'm really proud of where we wound up, and in no small part to the whole team just kind of helping me through it, because it definitely was a real challenge in a way to achieve that. So I'm really proud of it. I can't wait for people to see it.